Broadcasting from the depths of outer space.
Damn you all to hell!
Indeed.
It's the Solo Sci-Fi Podcast.
Right, this is episode 81 of the Solo One Sci-Fi Podcast. I'm Michael Paul, and I'm joined, as usual, with my co-host, Mr. Martin Fowler, who's feeling a bit under the weather. Hello, Martin. Say hello.
I've got really bad flu, so just forgive me.
Oh, okay. Well, it should be an interesting show because we are featuring one of our favourites of all time, Star Trek Next Generation. And who else could we have from the background of expertise with Star Trek, especially Star Trek ships? And that is, of course, from Trekyards, Captain Foley himself. Hello, Captain. Hello, Stuart. How are you doing?
Good. I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much. It's very kind of you to join us. So we just wanted to basically talk to you about the Next Generation, how we all sort of got into this incredible series. And we also, I think we would like to talk a bit about, to a degree, Picard and how Picard's character has changed from where he started off in 1987 to where he is now in 2021. So let's ask the sixth guy first of all himself. Mr. Feeling Under the Weather, Martin Fowler, how did you first get into Star Trek The Next Generation?
Through the video library.
All right.
Yeah, I'd seen it in SFX magazine, and they released Encounter at Farpoint, and there were a couple of episodes of the first season.
Right.
And it started renting them out all the time. Because America got it 2 years before what we did.
We were way behind America, absolutely.
Well, they released the odd video on that, so I just rented them out.
So in Canada, was it about the same time that you guys got it as America, or how was it up there?
Yeah, we got it at the exact same time, actually. Yeah.
Right.
So
yeah,
and I remember the lead up to it, and it's like, you know, in the so far in the future from TOS, it's going to be so different. Why do they even need a ship? They can just beam planet to planet. Like, I was young. I was like 14, 15 at the time.
Right.
So I remember bugging my brothers, who were big Star Trek fans, about it with, you know, hearing all this new news and bugging them with, like, why do they even need a ship? I was young and stupid. So.
I think with me, go on, Martin, you go first. Go on.
They released the model kits here first, before the series on the BBC.
Wow.
It was the Ferengi, the Romulan Derelict Warbird, and the Enterprise. And we got the models about 2 years before we got the series.
I remember when I came across it, I was a big fan of the original series, and I remember Brent Spiner. We had a chat host over here called Terry Wogan, and Brent Spiner came on, and he was on that show, and he said that we're not going to get it until 1989, I think it was, on BBC Two. And I remember being absolutely gutted because, like Martin, we had special rental copies of Encounter at Farpoint, the Naked Now, Code of Honor, those really early episodes.
Yeah, they're the ones.
And I fell in love with those episodes straight away, especially when I saw When No One Has Gone Before. That, to me, was the first episode where I thought, oh my gosh, this series is going to be so good. But we had such a long wait until it was actually available to watch on BBC Two. It wasn't, you couldn't buy the episodes at that point, you could only rent them. And I think I got an ex-rental tape, it was all worn out, and I was just absolutely blown away by it. And I think it's quite interesting. From your perspective, both of you, did you fall in love with it straight away as fans of the original series, or did you take a while to warm up to it? Let's ask you first, Captain.
I actually did get into it right away because I was at a good age. Like I said, I was the same age as Wesley, essentially. So I kind of was very eager for new Trek, and I always had Trek in my life ever since I could remember, because my brothers were huge fans, and I was born in '74. So even as a baby, I was exposed to it. I don't even remember what my first experiences with Star Trek were. I can't either. Yeah. I was super into it, and I didn't know about all the hate at the time. Like, we didn't have the internet, obviously, but we had the magazines that were like,
yes, that's right.
It's not my Star Trek. It's not Kirk and Spock. I'm not going to watch it. Same kind of hate we get now, but it's not. You're not inundated with it daily. I remember being totally stoked about it and just enjoying it right from the get-go. Like, it was so impressive to see on the screen, all the special effects and everything. It was just amazing.
Do you know what blew me away? was when the Enterprise saucer section detached.
Yes,
You know, an encounter
absolutely.
at Farpoint. I was so blown away by it.
Yeah.
I was hooked the day it started.
And I hadn't realised that apparently the original Enterprise was supposed to source a set as well. Apparently that was something which was built into the ship, which of course we never saw until the fan film Star Trek Continues in their last episodes. And it was.
Well, we actually saw it in Of Gods and Men, the fan film of Gods and Men. They did it actually.
Yep.
Oh, did we? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
Okay, I like
That was way before Star Trek Continues.
Yes.
And actually, we have a video talking specifically about saucer separation on our channel. And yeah, it was in the original guide that it could do that. It could also detach the nacelles from the secondary hull as an emergency procedure as well. So lots of cool stuff we never saw.
I mean, one thing, like I said, we are big fans of Trekyards, and your channel literally has got something about anything about Star Trek, especially the ships and proposed new designs and all sorts of things. And I'm quite a ship guy myself. You know, last year during COVID, I got a 3D printer and I was like printing out all these ships and putting them on my wall and all this sort of stuff and getting them in the right aspects. And I thought to myself, those guys, Trekyards, they would tell me off if the Enterprise B was the wrong size in respect to the Enterprise D and all that sort of stuff. And you can really get into that universe, can't you, of the physical ships that actually are part of the series. So, I mean, obviously, Patrick Stewart wasn't the first choice to be Picard. It was an actor who appeared as a Bajoran general in Deep Space Nine Season 2. I can't remember his name. I can't remember his name now, I have to look it up, but I know that Picard wasn't the first choice by Gene Roddenberry. I mean, can you imagine this Next Generation without Patrick Stewart being at the helm?
No.
Or I can't see it myself. I think he was just so integral to the series.
Or with hair. I mean, they wanted him to do the part with a wig at one point.
I heard about that.
Which we see in one of the flashbacks where him and Crusher go to see the body of Jack Crusher.
Jack Crusher,
got that wig on.
the episode. Yes, that's right. Violations of something like that. And it was Picard's toupee, and of course you think of William Shatner in some ways with some of the things he was having during the some of the movies and stuff like that. But I mean, it's funny. I'm actually going through the original, the early episodes of the Next Generation now, and I'm looking at Picard as he is in Picard, and his character is very different. But some people could say that maybe his characteristics would change just naturally through old age. I don't know whether you two feel that. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I quite like Picard. I think it's got its pros and cons. But I mean, what do you think with Patrick Stewart and his character over the last?
I found his story arc. I mean, his story arc was quite interesting in Next Generation to the movies.
Yeah,
you know, especially like the Borg thing, which really I loved the episode after the two-parter when he goes home and he gets in trouble. You start to see some like real emotion with him, and that he is a flawed character. I think he had a really interesting story arc. He always wanted a family, but he was dedicated to duty and honour and exploration.
That's what I was going to say. That's what made it very poignant in Generations when he lost his brother Robert and his nephew because of a fire, and he was completely broken. I mean, the two elements with his character that stood out for me were, first of all, him becoming Locutus and his recovery, which you just mentioned, and probably losing his own family and never having. He said at one scene, there would be no more Picards because he was never planning on having a family. I mean, recurring characters, I mean, again, Brent Spiner. I mean, obviously Brent Spiner was the Next Generation in many ways, the observation of the human condition, the same as Spock was in the original series. I mean, obviously he did such a good job, but do you think he was the same level as Spock was in the original series, or how do you feel in regard to that?
He was definitely the new Spock. Like, there's a Spock character in every series, honestly.
I was thinking that. I mean, I think that's one thing that all the Star Treks need to have. I think that's a very important ingredient. I don't know why it is, but you just need someone.
Well, you get the alien in that's going to like explore human emotions. Or he's got his own weird society, and
it's so clever. It's so clever. Saru, yeah, exactly. And I just think it's fascinating how. Star Trek, a lot of it is looking at the human condition from a different perspective, whether you would be a changeling or a hologram or a Vulcan or an android. It's interesting with the new Star Trek series. I think they're going to have an Anar in it, relations to the Andorians, this new blind Andorian. And I think that character, I know it's slightly off topic, but I find that fascinating concept for this new Star Trek series. But sorry, we are going off topic. But the Next Generation,
Can I say something about Data real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
Data was interesting because in Unification, when he has the scene with Spock, he's always aspired to be human. Spock's half human and always tried to hide his human side. So the characters are very similar, but at the same time, very much not alike, because Data even says to him, you've basically tried to hide the one thing that I've always aspired to be.
Yes.
So they're the same character, but they're totally different characters. And it's amazing the way they did that.
And
that was actually
Spock
very
says
good
the
point.
Reverse.
Yes.
There's people that would aspire to be you, basically.
It's actually very clever because it wasn't as evident of that until they had this wonderful conversation together. And as you say, it was in many ways, it was the polar opposite in the way that they're developing in regard to mixing with humanity and things like that. I mean, what else should we say about Next Generation? I mean, other recurring characters, what other characters do you think really brought the series, made it sort of stand out in regard to the other sci-fi shows around at the time? Do you think it was, I mean, obviously you had other characters like Riker and Crusher and stuff like that. Do you think it was, at that point, more of the storylines, or it was also more the actual recurring characters? Either of you.
Well, the characters in TNG are actually all rather amazing. Even ones that occasional characters like Guinan is a fantastic character.
Yes.
But unfortunately, I think Guinan's character took a lot of Deanna Troy's lines or things away from her, because she was more like a counselor than even Diana was in some episodes.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a shame, but I just loved that everything connected and the way they evolved over the 7 seasons, like their relationships. It was fantastically written and done.
Yeah, absolutely.
What did it for me was like it really, like with Worf, it opened up the whole Klingon, from the 60s, so quite stereotypical, this evil force, and then we got into this whole new aspects of Klingon society, which I just found fascinating. We even started getting more with the Romulans as well. Started touching. I would have liked them to have done more Romulan in their society, because you became fascinated by the alien civilizations,
I mean, going back to Worf, I mean, of course, Denise Crosby left during the first season, and it's interesting to think about what her character could have gone to if she'd have stayed in the whole of the 7 seasons, and whether Worf would have had more of a central focus, as it would have been slightly more diluted as an extra character in the main show. So do you think that Worf might have been a bit underplayed if Denise Crosby's Tasha Yar might have stayed in the whole series?
I believe so, yes. Actually, because that was one of Gene's mandates. Like, yes, I want a Klingon on the bridge, but I don't want to focus on the Klingon culture at all. That was his thing. Yeah. And then when, he kind of got more detached from the series and things started to evolve under Rick Berman, it kind of shifted focus on a lot of things. Like Rick Berman notoriously had a bust of Gene Roddenberry in his office. And whenever he'd make a decision that he knew Gene wouldn't agree with, he would put like a little blindfold on and turn the bust the other way when he was having a discussion with somebody.
I never knew that. That's amazing. That's interesting. Because of course, Denise Crosby did return in the alternate timeline in Yesterday's Enterprise, and I just thought that was probably the best episode to feature her character, although technically it was an alternate universe character. And I don't know whether, from what I understand, she felt that she was being underplayed a bit in season 1, which is why she left. She felt that she didn't get enough out of her character. So it makes you wonder whether she just jumped the gun a bit too soon, and if she'd have been at least for one more season, whether she might have really clicked that she would have had time to shine in the ensemble.
Yeah, I think she would have actually. Well, the thing is, I think the actress wanted to get on to bigger and better things because she thought she was being underused, and that nobody knew that Star Trek was going to be a hit at the time.
Right.
So she wanted to go on to her movie career, which she did, like Pet Sematary and stuff like that. I actually had a chance to interview her at London Comic Con here a few years ago, and it was she's a fascinating lady. But unfortunately, her career never took off after that, and I think she missed the boat a little bit.
I talked to her at there was a Birmingham convention a couple of years ago. I think you went to it, in 2019. I think we were there in the same weekend, but we were at the same time. And I talked to her then, and she was really nice, just really approachable, and just talking about just enjoying time with the fans. And of course, she did the documentary Trekyards, which I've never seen.
Yes,
I don't know whether you two have ever seen
Trekkies
that.
and Trekkies 2.
Yeah. Are they worth watching? Are they worth checking out?
They're absolutely
they are.
worth watching. Yes. Yeah.
Fantastic, especially because it's like the early 2000s and that 90s. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And there's rumors they're making a Trekkies 3 at some point, so who knows?
I hope so.
Yeah, because I mean, like I said, there's some really good documentaries out there with regard to the Star Trek series. I mean, there's a very good Deep Space Nine one, which came out a couple of years ago. They're making a Voyager one. Did they make a Next Generation documentary in the same way, or have they not done that yet?
Not yet.
No, not yet.
I'm surprised they've not done that one first, actually. If they're doing DS9 and Voyager, and then they might come back to... Then maybe they think there's already enough documentaries out there because the Next Generation was the more widely known.
Well, plus the Next Generation crew got their shot at quite a few movies, and the Voyager and DS9 crews didn't. So you got to focus on them somewhat, I guess. But yeah, I mean, soon we're going to start losing TNG people, unfortunately, I think. And so sooner than later, it would be good to do a documentary like that, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that Patrick Stewart is filming season 2 and 3 of Picard straight back to back. I think that's certainly probably a good thing. So I don't know when season 3 will come out, but that's probably a good thing. But yeah, I suppose you should say, I mean, it's been 35 years since it started. It's been a long time. Unfortunately, like I said, with a couple of DS9 actors sadly departing, i.e. Rene Auberjonois, I can't pronounce his surname, and Eric Eisenberg, who played Nog. So it does make you think about it. But yeah, hopefully. So, I mean, obviously, The Next Generation, I mean, I think it was really probably season 3 when they realised that they were actually into a hit. Do you think that's when it started to really become the icon it would become forever after that? Do you think it was the first 2 seasons, then season 3 was like, right, we're on to a winner here, and we're going to go on to bigger things? Would you both agree?
Yeah, well, they're more comfortable in the role, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, first season, when you look at it now, it's quite bad. I mean, some brilliant episodes. But as it progressed at third season, you can tell they're all very comfortable in the roles, confident. Even Patrick Stewart's not stuck up as he was, like in the first season. Yeah. They've all chilled out.
Well, on Trekyards, we've been doing reviews of TNG, so we're up to season 5 now. And season 1 and 2 are not as bad as people remember. They just kind of lump them together, like, that's before it got good. Yeah, but there's still a lot of good stuff there. But yeah, they were using a lot of the recycled scripts that were going to be used for Star Trek Phase 2 in TNG, and a lot of them have a TOS feel to them that it just doesn't fit.
Yeah, one of those is The Child from season 2, which I know was going to be one of the Phase 2 ones, and they used that with Deanna Troi. And I think 1 or 2 of them actually, again, going back to the fan films of Star Trek Continues, 1 or 2 ended up there. So, but it's interesting how, they all slowly gel together. And as Martin just said, how Patrick Stewart was a bit stiff and wooden in the first season, but he slowly mellowed out. And if you've watched any of the outtakes, you've seen that slowly they really sort of had fun with him. They got him to thaw out a bit, and you could see that in his, not just in his way he acts as a character. He mellows out. He's still the captain, but he's a bit more approachable. He's slightly less cold, and you can see that. And I think that's the interesting change in dynamics in the show as it progresses from seasons 1 to about season 3 or 4, which I thought was interesting. So, I mean, I suppose at this point we should think about when the series ended. Obviously, it finished after season 7. Do you both think that it was about time for it to progress to the movies by that point, or do you wish it continued a bit longer on TV run first, or how do you think it went? Let's ask Martin first.
I thought the movies were all right. I quite enjoyed the movies. I know that Nemesis got banned, but I would have preferred the other story they were going to use. But it's all right. I mean, it would have been, the clone of Picard and that. But the other 3 movies, I ain't got a problem with. I really thought it was a nice evolution for them.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you, Captain?
I honestly wish they would have gone longer than 7 seasons. They were hitting their stride. They knew their characters. They were young still. It could have done a few more seasons, honestly. I mean, the movies were fine. Generations gets a lot of hate for some reason. I love Generations.
I've always loved it.
I like it. Yeah.
I think it's a really good film. I've never understood that, but it's just, again, it's individual taste, isn't it?
Yeah, it just wasn't what people. It just wasn't what people expected. The meeting of Kirk and Picard to go that way. But Insurrection, I think, is the weakest of the movies.
I agree.
Like, even more so than Nemesis.
Yeah, I prefer
honestly,
Nemesis to Insurrection. I do.
Insurrection is just a super bloated TNG episode. It's not. It doesn't have a movie feel to it, So
yeah, it doesn't sort of stand out. I mean, I heard that after Nemesis, they were planning on doing at least one more film to finish things off. Is that correct? You might know more about that than I do.
that was the plan. But because of the way that Nemesis, performed at the box office, they kind of nixed that idea, unfortunately.
So do you think that it might have been partly franchise fatigue that Nemesis, at that point, we'd had 7 seasons of DS9, we'd had 7 seasons of Voyager, and Enterprise, no, that was during Enterprise's, I think season 1 that Nemesis was made. Do you think that's partly what damaged that last film from reaching the heights that it should have done?
I honestly don't know. I don't know what about that film that people don't like. It's not the best of the films, honestly, but I don't understand the hate for it. It's a fairly good idea. There's something about it when you watch it, it feels darker, it feels different than the other films. But I honestly have no idea. No idea.
It's interesting because I used to go to a bar in London called Page's Bar, and it was done out like the Enterprise inside. And it was packed during Next Generation, DS9 Voyager. It was really packed. And then when we started coming out end of DS9 and Voyager, when Enterprise, they actually shut down around the time Enterprise, because nobody was going there. And that was a good barometer to sort of measure the franchise against. And it did empty out. I think some people there might have been too much. I mean, I love it. It was. I wanted more.
I wanted more too, but I'm thinking that the general audience were thinking by this point with 7, 14, 21, 24, 25 seasons of Star Trek from 1987 to 2005, something like that. That's a lot of seasons. I personally, I could have watched it another 25 seasons for me. I could have watched it every day of the week because I was just such a huge fan. But I suppose it's possible that they've had this pause, and then of course they've gone into the Kelvin, and then they've got the new CBS Paramount Plus series, which are different. I'm not, like I said, personally my favourite era of Star Trek are the 24th century era, the 3 shows from that period in the 90s. But I just think, how about, would you guys ever think that they might do a remake of the Next Generation, recast it, have a new Picard? I would really hope not, but they're talking about a lot of remakes, and they've done remakes of the original series technically with Kelvin. How about you, Captain?
No, I think that would be a huge misstep, and I think they've probably learned their lesson about that. Leave it as it is and just move on with new stuff. See, I mean, the 90s when we had Voyager and DS9 and TNG and the movies all going on, even the original cast movies at the same time. Yeah. That was the golden age of Trek.
Yes, it was.
We've now, it's like the comics. It's like the comics. The golden age of comics, you had Superman, Batman, all the main guys. Now we're in the silver age of Star Trek, in my opinion. And it's just like the silver age of comics. You get all the spin-off characters getting their own series. And that's exactly what we're getting right now. So I just say that's the golden age. TOS is a standalone thing, obviously, because it started it all. But they got the golden age, and now we're in the silver age with a lot more content, but it's more spin-off characters. It's more variety, just like the comics. There's so many comics now. Every character has their own comic series, and that wasn't the case in the golden age. So
yeah, it's very interesting how you point that out. I mean, it's like you're hearing about all these potential new Star Trek series. I mean, there's talking about a new Starfleet Academy series just today. I read about that.
They've been talking about that,
which we've been talking about for the last
for decades.
Since the Voyage Home, I think they've been talking about that. So it's funny how you say how in some ways it goes in circles, and you have different sort of periods where this incredible franchise have had its highs and lows. And I agree with Stuart that I think that the best era for me was the 90s. Just how those 3 series were in the same time period. You had lots of crossovers. It just made the whole thing so much more compelling.
I mean, do you remember how excited you used to get when it were on? Oh, did you get that with Discovery? Do you get it with Picard? When you remember what Next Generation were on Wednesday night on BBC every week? or Deep Space Nine on Sky One, and you were sat there at 8 o'clock, slavering for it. That weekly episode. It was like
it's
Stargate,
possible. It's
wanting
possible.
every week. You're not like that for Discovery, though.
But it's possible that maybe as we're a bit older, maybe we're looking at the newer Star Treks in a slightly different perspectives. If they'd have been on.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, these days it's more visuals and less episodes, and it's less, for me at least, less philosophy in some ways. But again, it's individualistic, isn't it? Some people love the new series. I don't mind the new series.
I think what it is that at that time there were certain things going on in all our lives, whether it be good and bad, but in the background, Star Trek was there. You know, I was all loved up in a massive relationship,
and you associate good times with those sort of shows.
That's what I mean. Yeah. So, like Deep Space Nine is very special to me.
Me too.
And you say that follows along with you because we're older now. Maybe we're more cynical.
And also, don't forget, back in those days, we were getting like 52 episodes of Star Trek a year. You were literally getting an episode a week, the whole year round, which to me, I mean, the idea of that ever happening again, obviously it wouldn't because of the way, the nature that they make shows these days. But I just think it was incredible. I wish I could go back and watch the episodes for the first time again now. Just so, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like you said, with 24, 26 episodes a season, it was great because they were each episodic, and TNG started incorporating like some carryover stories and stuff as well. But the new ones with 10 episodes, they're serialized. It's all like one story, so you don't remember specific episodes as much.
Yes.
Whereas we grew up with it. It was like individual adventures every week, and they had a lot of chance for character development, you know?
And that's just why I'm very hopeful for Strange New Worlds, because they are saying it's going to be, it might be a loose arc, but it's going to be hopefully relatively standalone episodes.
Yes.
Which I am very excited about. I really hope
Stuart,
that's how Star Trek works best.
Absolutely.
So, what do you think to the Kelvin timeline? What did you like the films? I mean, I'm not a big fan of them.
This is where Stuart goes, I think. Go on.
Right, okay.
No,
I'm not a fan of them myself.
I'm not the biggest fan. I mean, the Enterprise is my favorite character because it is a character, and they butchered the Enterprise in that.
They did. They leveled it, didn't they? Yeah.
It wasn't. Star Trek format doesn't work for big screen, really. Even the original movies, a lot of them, the big baddie sometimes just doesn't work. That's why I think a lot of the problem with Nemesis.
I think it's more of a TV-based show. Yeah. Absolutely.
But the Kelvin films, I mean, I think Beyond was the best of them. The last one felt the most Star Trek to me. I still watch them. It's Star Trek. I'm going to watch it if it has Star Trek on it, regardless of what it is.
Yeah, same for me.
But the Kelvin films, I mean, they had good points and they had bad things as well, but just overall as a whole, they're just kind of like meh for me. So
yeah. So I suppose that makes me think, if they're making Strange New Worlds, we've not seen any space footage of the Enterprise. Whether it's going to be slightly redesigned again from the Discovery Enterprise version, that's what I'm wondering. So you guys, I know that you're going to be looking for anything different.
Yeah.
If and when you get a screen grab,
I've got open Strange New World because, like, I'm up and down with Discovery. Season 3, I want a fan at all. But when Anson Mount turned up in season 2, he changed the entire series for me. That man belonged in the big chair. He played a captain, as it should be. And I think he's got the personality and charisma to sit in the big chair. It should never be about somebody who's below the captain. The captain's the focus, and then the structure around him, whether it be on a space station, a ship, or in an office block. You know, it is the captain. When he sat in that chair, Discovery, I just like season 2. You know, it worked really well. He had the thing to play the captain. You know, absolutely. So I'm quite hopeful for this. I hope.
With their Star Trek Day announcement, they did do a cast reveal, so we saw some backgrounds of the bridge. The bridge is slightly different.
Yeah,
it's slightly different. We have a video coming out about it because we break that stuff down. We love the tech and the ships. That's our forte. So we have some videos coming out about that and some lives as well. So we've noticed every little. We didn't get much shots of the bridge yet, or none of the exterior of the ship. But there's a graphic on the bridge that shows the wireframe of the ship, and it looks like the struts are straight again because they're supposed to be.
Oh, really? Oh, that'd be cool.
Well,
that's what it should be.
We're not quite sure yet.
No, but that's hopeful.
Because when John Eaves designed that ship, he designed it with straight struts because it's supposed to. Got approved. got sent off to the visual effects department, and then when John Eve saw it on screen, the visual effects department are the ones that changed them to the swept back struts. And John was seeing that for the first time after his straight strut version was approved. So that's the kind of thing that happens in today's,
well, again, there's
media
not
making.
I was going to say there's a discontinuity already because the uniforms are now different again from those seen in Discovery. They've got a sort of more of a they're more like soccer shirts. They don't feel quite uniformy to me. They don't feel, but they're more symmetry though. I know that you didn't.
They're more like the '60s designs. And even the colors and the fabrics and the feels. We've got a whole thing talking about those as well. So that gives me hope for the ship because they even said early on, when you close your eyes and you visualize those TOS sets, the corridors, the bridge, that's what we're going to have on screen for you to see. And so we hope that they were going to redesign things, and it looks like they are. Maybe small little things, but
Well, as long-term fans, I think we're all very excited for this new show. In some ways, I wish they could have just kept the original aesthetics like they did in the Mirror Darkly and Enterprise, where we saw a classic Enterprise, and it looks so good. And that was made in 2005, and
it worked, didn't it?
It was absolutely fantastic.
It work.
New filming techniques and new lighting makes those old sets look perfect.
Yeah, I think to me that's one of the biggest thumbs down from new sort of Star Trek, that they're not respecting continuity, like Star Wars, like The Mandalorian. It feels in Star Wars universe. The newer shows, and again, I know we're talking about the Next Generation, but I have gone slightly off topic. But that's the thing that does slightly put me off the newer shows, that it should be the original Enterprise. Relight it, do subtle changes, slightly modernise some of the panels. You could do it and make it still look like it fits in the canon. I know that you feel like that, Stuart, so I know that I definitely agree with you about that one. But
Well, I don't buy the argument that the 60s aesthetic doesn't work in today's world, because it absolutely does.
It does to prove that in Enterprise.
Yeah, if you slightly modernize it just a tad, or just proper lighting techniques.
Very subtly.
I won't get into that. That's a whole half-hour discussion on its own.
Well, listen, let's wrap up the Next Generation. But I mean, I'm glad that I certainly discovered this wonderful series after watching the original series, and it certainly created, really, the Next Generation was responsible for all, what Star Trek is today, with the next with DS9 and Voyager and Enterprise and all the others. So thank you guys very much for joining me for this one. I think what we'll do is we'll wrap up in a second, if that's okay. But yeah, let's just hope that in 2022, actually, it's only November. We're going to get Discovery coming back to season 4.
Yes.
That should be interesting. And then, of course, we've got the Ball Queen coming back. So, plenty of things. Just to say, in links below on my channel, we'll obviously put links to Trekyards and obviously where we can find you, Stuart, and of course, Commander Cockins. And thank you guys very much for joining us. And we'll be back next week with another show. Thank you very much.
Okay, live long and prosper.
Encounter at part 1 and part 2, the naked now haven and hide and Q. Code of honor, last outpost where no one has gone before. Lonely among us, the big goodbye, data lore. Justice, the battle, home soil, and Angel One, coming of age. 11001001, when the bow breaks, and too short a season. Symbiosis, the arsenal of freedom. Heart of glory, skin of evil. We'll always have Paris, conspiracy, the neutral zone. And that's season 1. I love Star Trek Next Gen. I'll watch them all over and over again. Those 7 seasons were great. I wish there were 8. The child where silence has least the Dauphin, the outrageous Okona, the schizoid man, Elementary, my dear Data, and the Royale. Loud as a whisper, manhunt, pen pals, unnatural selection, contagion, Times Squared, a matter of honor, Samaritan shared, the measure of a man, the Icarus factor, the emissary, and up the long ladder, and peak performance, and shades of grey and Q Who. And that's season 2. I love Star Trek Next Gen. I'll watch them all over and over again. Those 7 seasons were fine. I wish there were 9. Evolution, the ensigns of command, the survivors who watches the watchers, Tin Man, the bonding, the enemy, the hunted, the price, the high ground, the offspring, and yesterday's Enterprise, movie trap, Deja Q, and the defector, sins of the father, the vengeance factor, a match for perspective, and Ménage à Troy, allegiance, hollow pursuits, the most toys, captains, holiday, Sarek, and transfigurations, the best of both worlds, part 1. Picard is Locutus, the 3rd season's done. Gee, I love Star Trek Next Gen. I'll watch them all over and over again. Those 7 seasons were swell. I wish there were 12. The best of both worlds, part 2 family, brothers and suddenly human. Remember me, half a life, future and perfect reunion. The lost Data's Day final mission, the wounded first contact and galaxy's child and clues. Identity crisis, the host devils do, night terrors and Cupid, the nth degree. The drumhead, the mind's eye and theory and legacy, and the cliffhanger if you're keeping score. Redemption part 1, and that's season 4. Gee, I love Star Trek Next Gen. I'll watch them all over and over again. Just 7 seasons, oh gee, why not 23? Redemption Part 2 and Darmok the Game and Row and Disaster a matter of time. Silicon Avatar Unification Part 1 and Part 2 and Violation. New Ground Hero Worship, the Masterpiece Society and Conundrum and Ethics and Power Play, Cause and Effect, the First Duty, the Perfect Fate, Cost of Living, the Outcast, the Inner Light, I, Borg, the Imaginary Friend, the Next Phase, End Times Arrow, and then the 5th seasons come to an end. I love Star Trek Next Gen. I'll watch them all over and over again. Just 7 seasons won't do. I want 32. Sour Part 2 and Realm of Fear, Man of the People and Rightful Heir, Relics and Citizens and True Q and Rascals, a Fistful of Datas and Chip and a Bottle, the Quality of Life and Chain of Command, Part 1 and Part 2 and Second Chances, Up Wheel, Face of the Enemy, Lessons Separate, Part 1, Part 2 and Suspicions and Tapestry Timescape, Starship Mine, The Chase, and Frame of Minor Descent. So Season 6 went. Gee, I love Star Trek Next Gen. I'll watch them all over and over again. Those 7 seasons were heaven. How about 47? Descent Part 2, Liaisons and Interface, Gambit Part 1 and Part 2, and Dark Page, Force of Nature, Inheritance, Parallels, Homeward, Sub-Rosa, Thine Own Self, Phantasms, the Pegasus, and Attached, Eye of the Beholder, Genesis, Masks, Lower Decks, and Journey's End, Firstborn, Bloodlines, and Emergence, Preemptive Strike, and all good things, and out the final fanfare rings, as all of Star Trek fandom sings. I love Star Trek Next Gen.